I'm Angie, and you're watching Dante's Vaccination.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So Teddy Atlas, he comes out and he reveals who the most overrated fighter in the sport of boxing is today. Do you guys want to guess who he gave the award to? It might surprise some of you guys. Well, by unanimous decision, he chose the European assassin, Canelo Alvarez. You know, I have to say, Teddy Atlas is one of the most unique members of old media. Because unlike the average old media member, Teddy Atlas, he breaks code. He does not stay on code. All of this stuff that Teddy Atlas said about Canelo Alvarez that I'm about to quote, everyone already knows this. But what race fans and old media don't usually do is say it in public. Teddy Atlas does, occasionally. Before Teddy Atlas completely committed to old media, he was extremely vocal about exposing Gennady Golovkin as the most overrated fighter at the time. Now he's exposing Canelo Alvarez. Now, this is not the first time that Teddy has exposed Canelo Alvarez. He's been exposing him for quite some time, but I believe this might be the first time that he just flat out came out and said, Canelo Alvarez is overrated and always has been.
I know you guys aren't mad at me saying that, are you? You great Mexican fans. I love yous, but you appreciate the truth. You know, the truth, like you're great fighters, throw that left hook to the liver, that's the truth. Well, there's other truths too. And the truth is that the man you love, I get it.
I represent Mexico.
And I appreciate that you back him and that you love him that way and you support him that way. But two things, and this is gonna get, this probably get a few people's blood pressure up a little bit, Ken.
Not probably.
But it's early in the morning, we wanna get the blood pressure up.
The hate will be flowing on Twitter, believe me.
But I stay consistent, and I stay with my facts from my career for almost 50 years of what I see and what I believe. Doesn't mean I'm right, but I base it on experience and what I've noticed. Canelo has always been overrated. Now, it doesn't mean he's not a real good fighter. He is not the greatest Mexican fighter. He's overrated. He probably lost to Lara. He lost twice to Triple G. I know it's old news, it's old history, but he lost the first two, especially the first one, to Trill. He lost to Mayweather every round, except for that judge that should be in jail.
Let me just start by saying this, because I've been saying this forever on my channel. If you say that Canelo Alvarez is the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, what would that really be saying about Mexican fighters? You're doing Mexico a major disservice to say that Canelo Alvarez is the greatest Mexican fighter of all time. But I'll elaborate a lot more on that point on a separate video. But one of the things that I thought was pretty funny is DAZN, they actually wrote an article reporting what Teddy Atlas said. The title of the article is Teddy Atlas names boxing superstar he thinks is overrated. And then they include the highlights of Canelo Alvarez beating John Ryder. And of course, the guy who's writing this article is making it sound like you would have to be seriously delusional to think that Canelo Alvarez is overrated in any kind of way. And this is what I was talking about when I said that Teddy Atlas is one of the most unique old media members because he goes off code, which has clearly pissed off the other members of old media. I'll say this as well. You know, the way that Teddy Atlas has been completely trashing fighters like Shakur Stevenson and has never really praised Devin Haney. Shakur Stevenson, he gets knockouts and Teddy Atlas still calls him boring. But at the same time has never praised Gervonta Tank Davis or even a Deontay Wilder for being extremely exciting. Wouldn't that make some of you guys think that Teddy Atlas was going to say that someone like Shakur is the most overrated? Someone like Devin Haney? Someone like Gervonta Tank Davis? Someone like Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford? Teddy can't call any of those guys overrated. Sure, he can talk about how he personally doesn't like them, but he knows deep down when it comes to being the best, in the sport that he has been involved in, as he put it, for 50 years, and has specialized in training fighters and breaking down fights analytically, Teddy knows he can't say the same things about Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, or Gervonta Tank Davis that he would say about Canelo Alvarez or Gennady Golovkin, because those type of fighters are going to go out of their way to prove Teddy Atlas wrong. Something fighters like Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez could not do and would not do. This is the reason why Devin Haney is staying at 135 right now to fight against Lomachenko. Teddy Atlas, he said he put Lomachenko in his top 10 after his second fight. That's who Devin Haney is fighting this month. And guess what Teddy Atlas said about that fight? He said, man, that's going to be a hard fight, a really hard fight for Lomachenko to win. And he didn't blame it on size or age. He's attributing his prediction to Devin Haney's ability to control range, control distance. Now, sure, Teddy Atlas's co-host, he was trying to use old media talking points, trying to make excuses for Lomachenko, but Teddy Atlas, he wouldn't have it. When this guy was trying to tell Teddy how, oh man, but Devin Haney is so big, Teddy, he replied on his show by saying, everyone Lomachenko fights is big. And that's not a lie, because Nakatani was bigger than Devin Haney, bigger, taller. And Nakatani turned out to be Lomachenko's easiest fight. And I'm talking about one of Lomachenko's easiest fights of his career. So I already told you, it's pretty bold for Teddy Atlas to go against the grain and go off cold by saying the obvious, that Canelo Alvarez is the most overrated fighter today. Because I can guarantee you guys, there is not another fighter today that is fighting consistently that Teddy Atlas would say is more overrated than Canelo Alvarez. But let me tell you what really makes what Teddy Atlas said so ballsy. You'll also notice no black fighter has dared to even come close to implying that Canelo Alvarez is overrated. In fact, it's always the contrary. They make it seem like he's the Michael Jordan of the sport. And it's the strangest thing ever, because a lot of these black fighters are far more skilled than Canelo Alvarez by leaps and bounds. It's not even close. But we've heard black fighters talk about Canelo Alvarez like he was Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and LeBron James all mixed in together. You know why? Because they know that that's what the racist fans want to hear. A lot of them are afraid of being bombarded with racist attacks on their social media accounts. Just to give you a perfect example, Stephen Fulton, who's about to fight NOA in July, he put this up on his Twitter account. He said, Canelo fans go hard. I said, let's go champ to Caleb. They start calling me clowns and monkey. I'm like, damn, they said me and him gonna get knocked out. Now, that's just one example. And guys, just think about this. Stephen Fulton never said anything bad about Canelo Alvarez. In fact, he was being extremely patriotic. He's saying, let's go champ to his countryman, Caleb Plant, who's not even black. If they said this about Stephen Fulton for saying that, imagine what they would have said about him if he would have said what Teddy Atlas just said. Canelo has always been overrated. In fact, if they're attacking Stephen Fulton's entire race, then that means deep down, they don't care what you say about Canelo Alvarez, if you agree with them or not. You see, these black fighters, they're used to getting called racial slurs all the time on Instagram, on social media accounts. And they feel like, man, if I say or agree with these racist fans, maybe it will at least reduce the amount of times they call me racial slurs today. So one of them does an interview and they say, hey man, I don't care what nobody says. Canelo Alvarez is still the best fighter in the world. Matter of fact, I want to meet him one day. I just really look up to him. He's a really, really special fighter. Now let me go to my Instagram and see what they have to say about that. Oh, now look at that. They only said something about my race 3 times today. Yesterday, they attacked my race 10 times. See, I'm making progress. You know, I told you guys that there hasn't been one single black fighter of significance today that has come out like Teddy Atlas did and just flat out call Canelo Alvarez overrated. But now that I think about it, there actually was one black fighter that implied it, and that was the pound for pound best fighter in the world today, Terrence Crawford. Here's what Terrence Crawford said to DAZN when they were trying to defend Canelo Alvarez.
But I want to ask your opinion on Canelo Alvarez. It seems like he's at a point where, people don't want to give him credit for anything. Now, granted, the last mandatory fight, people weren't happy with that. But he's fighting Billy Joe Saunders, and if he beats him, he is trying to fight Caleb Plant to unify 168, and people still looking past that saying, well, he can't beat Jamal Charlo. Do you think that Canelo Alvarez is unbeatable at 168? Meaning, do you see anybody beating him at that weight class?
My thing is, he shied away from Jamal Charlo and Demetrius Andre for a long time. And when you look at Canelo's career, it's like he's shying away from the black fighters. I think the black fighters is the ones that give him the most problems.
Now, what Terrence Crawford said right there, it went completely viral in the sport of boxing. And let me tell you, by the time those races were done with Terrence Crawford on the internet, it was probably only about a month later that Crawford, he came out, and not only did he not come close to saying anything that he said before, but in fact, he called Canelo Alvarez pound for pound the best fighter over himself. Boy, you know that had to be some serious intimidation for Crawford to say that Canelo Alvarez is better than him. And it makes no sense at all, because how are you avoiding the black fighters and yet you're considered the best fighter in the world? That's like saying you're the fastest man in the world, but you refuse to race against black sprinters. And that's who Terrence Crawford said was the best fighter in the whole wide world after the backlash he received from what he said about Canelo Alvarez. And let me tell you something, they made an example out of Terrence Crawford, because after they did Terrence Crawford that way, man, them other black fighters, they was like, boy, you see what they did to Terrence Crawford for what he said? That's when the praise by black fighters went through the roof for Canelo Alvarez. It's really amazing when you think about it, because Teddy Atlas, he openly comes out and he says that Canelo Alvarez has always been overrated. The Mexican greats, they always openly criticize Canelo Alvarez. It's only the black fighters that are extremely intimidated to say these things about Canelo Alvarez. And that's because out of the bunch, they're the only ones that get attacked racially. No one is calling Teddy Atlas any racial slurs. Obviously, they're not saying anything racist about other Mexicans. In fact, even when you quote what a Mexican fighter said about Canelo Alvarez, they will attack the messenger for having the nerve to report what the Mexican said while being black. So this is the reason why you don't hear too many black fighters come out and criticize Canelo Alvarez. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one. All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, fever blisters, diabetic ulcers, this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called Elo Diki Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to elodiki.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram. Let me tell you guys about Issa Israel Law Firm. It is a full-service legal practice based in Denver, Colorado, an emerging hub for combat sports and high-altitude training. If you're a fighter inside or outside of the ring and you need a law firm you can trust to fight for you, visit thefighterfirm.com or email help@iilawfirm.com. Legal representation is usually limited to plaintiffs or defendants in Colorado, but iFirm can help anyone in the world with trademarking their business name, logos, and U.S. immigration issues. This brother has been my attorney for a while and helped guide me through all kinds of business and civil issues, so make sure you guys go to thefighterfirm.com.